The anxiety is not the problem. That is the first thing to understand before any of the 8 habits on this list will make sense. The anxiety is a signal, a real one. It is your nervous system reporting, accurately, that something in the architecture of your daily life is producing more unresolved stress than your current capacity can absorb. You do not fix anxiety by arguing with the signal. You fix it by building the capacity. 8 habits. Each one adds something to the structure your nervous system is operating inside. None of them suppress the signal. All of them build what the signal is asking for. Bruce Banner lived for years treating his anxiety as the enemy, as something to be controlled, suppressed, managed down to silence. That approach produced exactly what yours has: more anxiety, more suppression, more energy spent on containment rather than construction. What actually worked was not quieting the signal. It was building a man whose daily architecture gave the signal less to report. These 8 habits are that architecture. Here is every one. Habit 1. Move the body before the mind engages the day. Not a full training session. 10 to 20 minutes of deliberate physical movement before the first screen, the first message, the first demand. The body's stress response is a physiological event. Physical movement is the most direct mechanism available for metabolizing residual stress hormones accumulated overnight. The mind that engages the day after the body has moved is starting from a lower baseline of physiological arousal than the mind that went directly from bed to screen. That baseline difference compounds across every subsequent hour. Habit 2. Clear the open loops every morning. Anxiety feeds on unresolved items. The brain's threat detection system does not distinguish between a genuine threat and an unfinished task. Both register as unresolved, both consume background processing, both contribute to the ambient hum of unease that most men carry through the day without being able to locate its source. 5 minutes on a blank page, writing every open loop, every pending decision, everything being carried, moves the weight from inside the nervous system to outside it, where it can be looked at and addressed, rather than carried invisibly. Habit 3. Make and keep one small promise to yourself daily. The relationship between a man and his own word is the foundation of his self-trust. Anxiety flourishes in the absence of self-trust. In the gap between what a man says he will do and what he does, one promise made and kept every single day is not a productivity habit. It is a nervous system habit. Each kept promise deposits into the account of self-trust. Each broken one withdraws from it. The account balance determines, more than almost any other variable, how the day feels from the inside. Habit 4. Reduce the input before you increase the output. Most men trying to build mental strength add practices to a day that is already overwhelmed with incoming signal, news, notifications, comparison, opinion, noise. Mental strength is not built on top of an overwhelmed nervous system. It is built in the reduction of what the nervous system is being asked to process. Identify the 2 highest noise inputs in your day. Reduce them by half for 30 days. The capacity that frees up does not need to be filled immediately. Let the nervous system use it for recovery first. Stay with the final 4. Habits 1 through 4. Build the floor. What comes next builds the walls. And habit 7 is the one that most men resist most and need most, in equal measure. Habit 5. Do the thing you have been avoiding. Once a day. Not the hardest thing on the list. One avoided thing, chosen deliberately, completed before the day ends. Avoidance is the primary mechanism through which anxiety sustains itself. Every avoided thing grows in perceived size and threat, the longer it is avoided. Every confronted thing shrinks on contact. One avoided thing per day, faced and completed, is a daily reduction in the inventory of things the nervous system is carrying as unresolved threats. After 30 days, the inventory is smaller than it has been in years. The anxiety that was feeding on it has less to eat. Habit 6. Protect sleep as the primary mental health intervention, not a recovery activity. The primary intervention, sleep deprivation, amplifies the amygdala's threat response, the part of the brain that generates anxiety, while simultaneously reducing the prefrontal cortex's capacity to regulate it. A man running on insufficient sleep is neurologically more anxious and less capable of managing that anxiety than his rested version. No other habit on this list produces its full effect in a sleep-deprived nervous system. Sleep is the foundation. Everything else is built on top of it or not at all. Habit 7. Tell someone the truth about how you are doing. Not a performance of fine, not a deflection. One person, one honest conversation about what is actually present. Anxiety grows fastest in isolation and in silence, specifically in the silence of a man who has decided that what he is carrying is not something he is allowed to put down in front of another person. That decision is not strength. It is a structural choice to carry the weight alone indefinitely. One honest conversation with one person who can hold it does not solve the underlying source. Habit 8 end every day with a single written acknowledgement of what was handled, not what was accomplished. What was handled, the task completed despite resistance. The conversation had despite discomfort, the avoided thing faced, the anxiety present, and the day continuing anyway. The brain's negativity bias will not perform this accounting on its own. It will record the anxiety and leave the evidence of capacity unlogged. You have to log it deliberately. What gets recorded gets reinforced. Over 30 days of recording what was handled, the nervous system develops an evidence-based understanding of its own resilience that no affirmation has ever been able to install. You came into this expecting 8 techniques for managing anxiety when it arrives. Coping strategies, things to do when the feeling is present and needs reducing. None of these habits manage anxiety in the moment. All of them reduce the conditions that produce it. The distinction matters because managing anxiety in the moment is a maintenance strategy. It keeps the level from rising past a threshold, but does nothing about the structural conditions generating it. Building the architecture reduces what the nervous system has to report. Less input to process. Less avoidance accumulating. More self-trust from kept promises. More recovery from protected sleep. Less isolation from one honest conversation. The anxiety does not disappear. The conditions that amplify it are systematically removed. What remains is signal without amplification, manageable, informative, and no longer running the day. Banner stopped trying to eliminate the Hulk and started building the conditions under which the Hulk had less reason to emerge. Same principle. Your nervous system is not the enemy. The architecture you have been giving it to operate inside is the problem. These 8 habits rebuild the architecture. Tonight, install 3. Not all 8, 3. The 3 that address the specific structural weaknesses in your current daily architecture where anxiety is getting the most fuel. Write them as behaviors, specific, timed, located, not sleep better lights off by 10:30 p.m., phone out of the room, no screens for 30 minutes before, not move more 15 minutes of movement at 7 a.m. before the phone is checked, in this room, before anything else. The anxiety you are carrying did not arrive suddenly. It accumulated through months or years of a daily architecture that kept feeding it. 3 structural changes held for 30 days begin dismantling that architecture from the inside. Not because the habits are powerful in isolation, because the architecture they replace was the source, and removing the source does what no coping strategy ever sustainably could. Mental strength is not the absence of anxiety. It is a daily architecture that gives anxiety less to feed on, and you more capacity to carry what remains. 3 habits. Installed tonight, written down as specific behaviors. The nervous system you have been managing around is the nervous system you have been building toward. And 3 structural changes held consistently begin the rebuild tonight, not when the anxiety finally gets quiet enough to start. 1 question. Which of the 8, name the specific number, addresses the structural weakness that has been feeding your anxiety the longest? Drop it in the comments. That is the first habit to install. Not eventually. Tonight, if this reframed anxiety from something to manage to something to architect around, subscribe. More of this. No coping strategies required.